What happens when one of Britain's most revered actors sits down for what should be a routine, friendly chat, only to face questions that cross every imaginable line? That morning, on daytime television, Dame Judi Dench experienced precisely that. In just a matter of minutes, a morning show host managed to provoke one of the most shocking walkouts in British television history, leaving viewers and studio staff alike stunned. The studio lights shone brightly, casting a golden glow across the set. Judi Dench ended with her signature poise, greeting the audience with a warm, effortless smile. She had done this countless times over decades. Interviews, panel discussions, promotional appearances. She knew the rhythm. A little small talk, a few laughs, perhaps a story about her latest project. Simple, elegant, familiar, and yet nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. Across from her, Lorraine Kelly sat smiling at the camera, the picture of professional enthusiasm. The audience clapped politely, the sound echoing through the studio. Judi eased into her seat, crossed her legs, smoothed the dress, and exuded calm confidence. But there was a sharp glint in Lorraine's eyes, a subtle warning that this conversation was going to deviate from the expected warmth. "Dame Judi, welcome. So wonderful to have you here," Lorraine began, her tone a touch overly bright, almost rehearsed. "Thank you, it's lovely to be here," Judi replied smoothly, her smile unshaken. Lorraine leaned forward slightly, the smile never fading. "I have to ask, acting for what, about 100 years now?" The audience laughed nervously. Judi's smile tightened, polite but wary. "Not quite 100, she said with a quiet chuckle. "I've been fortunate to work for many years." Lorraine's tone sharpened almost imperceptibly. "Fortunate indeed. But let's be honest. At your age, how much longer can you really keep doing this? Aren't there younger actors who deserve the spotlight?" A hush fell over the studio. A gasp from the audience underscored the tension in the air. Judi's warm expression dimmed. She straightened in her chair. "I'm sorry, are you suggesting there's an age limit on passion, on creativity?" Lorraine waved off the concern. "Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. You had your time, won your awards. Maybe it's time to step aside for the new generation." Judi blinked slowly, gathering herself. Her voice was measured but firm. "I wasn't aware that acting was a competition with turns to be taken. I work because I love what I do, because I still have stories to tell." Lorraine's tone grew almost mocking. "Stories to tell, right? Well, speaking of stories, let's talk about your personal life. You've been married twice, correct?" Judi's voice softened, almost quietly. "I'd rather not discuss my personal relationships." "But the public wants to know," Lorraine pressed, leaning forward. "Your first husband passed away, tragic, really. And then you remarried much later. Some might say you moved on rather quickly, wouldn't they?" Judi's face paled, her hands gripping the chair's armrests. "That is an incredibly disrespectful thing to say. My personal grief is not entertainment for your show." Lorraine countered unapologetically. "You're a public figure. You put yourself out there, so you have to accept the consequences. There's a difference between being a public figure and having private pain turned into gossip," Judi said, her voice gaining strength. "What you're doing is cruel." Lorraine shrugged, though. "I'm just asking questions. If you can't handle a few questions, maybe you shouldn't do interviews." The studio was silent. The tension was palpable. This was no playful banter or misjudged comment. It was deliberate, pointed, sharp. Judi inhaled slowly, composed but resolute. "I've been in this industry a very long time," she said, steadily, her voice carrying authority. "I know the difference between curiosity and cruelty. And this," she paused, eyes steady on Lorraine, "this crosses the line." It was in that moment, with cameras still rolling and the audience holding its breath, that Judi Dench, one of Britain's most celebrated actresses, stood and walked out of the interview, leaving behind a stunned host and a studio basking with disbelief.
Over decades of interviews, I have faced hundreds of journalists, some skillful, some less so. But never in all my years have I encountered such brazen rudeness disguised as journalism, Judi thought, her composure beginning to fray. "Oh, here we go," Lorraine said, rolling her eyes. "The Grand Dame Act. You know what, Judy? Just because you've got a title in front of your name doesn't mean you're above criticism. Doesn't mean you're special." "I never claimed to be special," Judy replied, calm but firm. "I do expect basic human decency, and right now that's clearly lacking." Lorraine leaned back, folding her arms, the picture of casual dismissiveness. "Well, I think you're being overly dramatic, which I suppose makes sense given your profession. Always performing, always needing attention." Judy's jaw tightened. "You invited me here. I came in good faith. I came to discuss my work, to connect with people who might enjoy what I do. I did not come here to be insulted." "Insulted?" Lorraine laughed, a harsh, grating sound that carried across the studio. "Oh, please. If you think this is insulting, you've lived a very sheltered life. I'm just being honest. Someone needs to be." "Honesty without kindness is just cruelty," Judy said quietly, almost under her breath. "Spare me the philosophy lesson," Lorraine snapped, her voice rising. "You know what I think? You've been coddled for far too long, everyone kissing up to you because of who you are. Well, not here, not on my show. Here, we keep it real." Judy shook her head slowly. "This isn't real. This is manufactured conflict created for ratings. You are trying to create a moment at my expense." Lorraine's eyes narrowed. "Maybe you're just not as interesting as you think you are. Maybe I have to push a little to get anything worth broadcasting." That was the breaking point. Judy stood deliberately, carefully unclipping the microphone from her dress and placing it on the chair with deliberate precision. The studio fell into stunned silence. "Where you think you're going?" Lorraine asked, feigning amusement, but her tone carried an undercurrent of disbelief. "I'm leaving," Judy said simply. "I will not sit here and be treated with such contempt." "Oh, come on," Lorraine waved dismissively. "Don't be so dramatic. Sit back down, we're not finished." "Yes," Judy said firmly, every word deliberate. "We are finished." Lorraine's amusement faded, replaced by an edge of panic. "You're really gonna walk off my show? Do you know how this will look?" "I know exactly how it will look," Judy replied, voice steady, calm, resolute. "And I am willing to accept that. What I am not willing to accept is another moment of your disrespect." "This is ridiculous," Lorraine said, rising to her feet now. "You're being completely unreasonable." "I was just doing my job," Judy countered, her voice rising with controlled authority. "Your job is to interview people, not to attack them. There's a difference, and you clearly don't understand it." Behind the cameras, producers began moving frantically. Crew members whispered, gesturing, trying to de-escalate, but Lorraine ignored them, her gaze locked on Judy with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Fine," Lorraine shouted. "Walk off! Run away! Show everyone what a coward you are!" Judy paused, letting the words hang in the air. Then she turned slowly, her expression composed yet pointed. "A coward? You think standing up for myself makes me a coward? I think it shows exactly the opposite." Lorraine's voice sharpened, attempting to regain control. "I think you can't handle a real conversation." "And I think," Judy replied, her tone calm but deadly serious, "that some people mistake cruelty for honesty. I came in good faith, and I leave with my dignity intact. That is not cowardice. That is courage." She turned and walked toward the exit, each step deliberate, leaving the studio in stunned silence. Cameras continued rolling, capturing every moment, every reaction, every stunned gasp. The room was frozen, the air thick with tension. Judi Dench, one of Britain's most respected actors, had done what few would dare. She walked away from the disrespect, refusing to be humiliated on live television. It was a moment that would be replayed endlessly, dissected endlessly, and remembered as one of the most remarkable exits in daytime television history. A testament to grace, composure, and the courage to stand up to cruelty.
I think you've spent so long being treated like royalty that you've forgotten what it's like to be challenged, Lorraine said, her tone sharp. There's a difference between being challenged and being bullied, Judi Dench replied, her voice steady, measured. And what you've done here today is bullying, pure and simple. Oh, bullying, Lorraine scoffed, leaning back with a dismissive shake of her head. That's a bit much, don't you think? No, I don't, Judi said firmly. You've questioned my age, my career, my personal relationships, my grief. You've suggested I'm too old, too irrelevant, too sensitive. And you've done it all while pretending it's just honest conversation. It's not honesty, it's cruelty. Lorraine crossed her arms. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I've been in the kitchen my entire life, Judi said, her voice calm but unwavering. I've handled heat that would make most people crumble, but I don't have to stand here and let you deliberately burn me for your entertainment. You're making this such a big deal, Lorraine said, her voice rising. It's just television. It's just a chat. Why are you being so difficult? Because you made it difficult, Judi replied evenly. From the moment I sat down, you've been hunting for conflict, pushing, prodding, trying to get a reaction. Well, congratulations, you got one. I'm leaving. Lorraine's tone sharpened. You'll regret this. People will think you're difficult to work with. They'll think you're a diva. Judi's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. Let them think what they want. I'd rather be thought difficult than remain somewhere I'm not respected. With that, she turned and walked toward the exit, each step deliberate, controlled. The audience froze, uncertain. Then slowly, scattered applause began. One by one, more joined in, until the sound swelled into a full standing ovation. People rose to their feet, showing support, appreciation, and admiration. Lorraine's face flushed red. Oh, wonderful, she said sarcastically into her microphone. Give her a standing ovation for walking off. That makes perfect sense. But Judi didn't turn around. Her head stayed high, her steps steady. She radiated dignity and grace, qualities she would not compromise for a television show. She had chosen her boundaries, and she would not waver. As she neared the edge of the set, a young producer hurried toward her. "Dame Julie, please," she said, voice urgent but gentle. "Can we just talk about this? Maybe start over?" Judi stopped, meeting the producer's gaze with warmth and understanding. "I appreciate that," she said kindly. "But no, what happened out there wasn't an accident, it was a choice. And I am making a choice too. I am choosing to leave." "But the show," the producer stammered, flustered. "We still have 20 minutes left." "Then I suggest your host learns how to fill time without tearing people down," Judi said, calm, almost sympathetic. "I'm sorry you're in this position, truly, but I will not be part of it." Back on set, Lorraine was scrambling, attempting to regain control of the broadcast. "Well, that was unexpected," she said, forcing a laugh into the camera. "I suppose some people just can't handle a frank discussion. We'll take a quick break and be right back." But as the cameras cut away, her smile faltered. Her expression shifted to panic, a stark contrast to the poised, composed figure Judi had been. Murmurs rippled through the audience, a low hum of conversation as viewers processed what had just occurred. The room was alive with tension, a mix of awe, support, and admiration. Judi Dench had walked away, not in anger, not in haste, but with a clear, unwavering sense of self-respect. She had drawn her line and refused to cross it, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who witnessed it. That day would be remembered not just as a television moment, but as a testament to grace, courage, and the quiet power of standing up for oneself.
Some in the audience were shaking their heads in disbelief, while others rose to leave, unable to watch any longer. One woman in the front row called out, her voice sharp and unwavering, "That was disgraceful. You should be ashamed." Lorraine tried to ignore her, hoping the comment would fade into the background, but it didn't. More voices joined in, growing louder, more insistent. "You were horrible to her. She deserved better. How could you be so mean?" The chorus of disapproval filled the studio, rattling the atmosphere. A producer rushed over to Lorraine, urgency etched across his face. "What were you thinking?" he hissed, leaning close so only she could hear. "You just drove off one of the most beloved actors in Britain." Lorraine's defensiveness flared immediately. "I was trying to make good television," she said, her voice tight. "I was trying to get something interesting by attacking her, by insulting her. That's not interesting, that's just nasty." Lorraine's hands began to shake slightly, the reality of the moment starting to sink in. She was being too sensitive, she muttered weakly, almost to herself. "No," the producer said firmly. "You were too harsh, and now we have a massive problem on our hands." Meanwhile, Judi Dench had made it safely to her dressing room. She sank into a chair, letting herself breathe, her hands still trembling faintly from the adrenaline. In her long career, she had never walked off a show before. Never. But she had also never been treated like that. Not like that. There was a soft knock at the door. "Come in," Judi said quietly. Her assistant stepped inside, worry evident in her eyes. "Are you all right?" she asked. Judi nodded slowly. "I am. I think it was the right thing to do." It absolutely was. What she did out there was appalling. Everyone's talking about it already. "Are they?" Judi asked, tilting her head slightly. "The audience, online, they're on your side," her assistant reassured her. I sighed, a quiet smile tucking at the corners of her mouth. "I didn't do it for sides. I did it because I couldn't stay." "I know," her assistant said gently. "But people see that, and they understand." Back on set, the commercial break was ending. Lorraine touched up her makeup, her hand unsteady as the producer leaned in to speak. "You need to address this when we come back. You need to explain." "Explain what?" Lorraine snapped irritably. "That I asked a few questions and she couldn't handle it?" "You need to apologize," the producer said bluntly. "Apologize?" Lorraine's voice rose shrill. "For what? For doing my job? For being cruel. That's what you were, cruel." The red light blinked on. The cameras rolled. Lorraine straightened her posture and forced herself to face the lens. "Welcome back," she said, her voice tight, controlled. "As you saw, Dame Judi Dench chose to leave our conversation early. I want to be clear that I have enormous respect for her work and her career." Even as the words left her lips, they sounded hollow. The damage was done. The moment had been captured for everyone watching to see. They had seen a host push too far. They had seen an icon stand up for herself. They had seen dignity triumph over ratings. In her dressing room, Judi gathered her things calmly, ignoring the remainder of the show. She didn't need to watch. She knew she had done the right thing. She had drawn a line, defended her dignity, and refused to compromise her principles for the sake of spectacle. In that moment, Judi Dench reminded everyone, crew, audience, and viewers at home alike, that respect and integrity matter much more than ratings or fleeting attention. She stood, straight-backed and composed, ready to leave, confident in her decision. And as she walked away, The resonance of her courage lingered in the emptying studio long after the cameras had stopped rolling. She had said enough was enough, and in doing so, she had reminded everyone watching that respect is not optional, that kindness matters, and that being a public figure does not mean tolerating abuse. Her assistant helped her with her coat. "Ready to go?" she asked. Judi nodded. "Ready." They moved through the quiet back corridors of the studio, deliberately avoiding the main areas. As they passed a monitor displaying the live broadcast, Judi caught a glimpse of Lorraine still on screen, trying desperately to salvage the show. She looked uncomfortable, tense, as though she had only just realized the weight of her own actions. It wasn't triumph that filled Judi in that moment. She didn't feel vindicated. She felt exhausted. Exhausted from defending herself, from having to justify her worth, from enduring the casual invasion of her privacy, and the constant assumption that her age or personal life was fair game for entertainment. Yet beneath that fatigue, there was pride. Pride in standing up. Pride in walking away. Pride in refusing to compromise who she was, even for the sake of a television show. As they approached the exit, a few crew members were waiting. At first, they clapped quietly, hesitant, unsure. Then, as understanding dawned, the applause grew louder. A young camera operator stepped forward, admiration in his eyes. "Dame Judi, I just wanted to say, that took real courage. What you did in there?" Judi smiled at him gently. "Thank you," she said. "But it shouldn't take courage to expect basic respect. That should be the baseline." "You're right," he replied earnestly. She walked out into the cool morning air. The street outside was calm, ordinary. Life went on as if nothing had happened. And yet something significant had shifted. She had shown that there are lines that should never be crossed, boundaries that demand respect, and that sometimes the most powerful statement is simply walking away. The interview, intended to last an hour, had ended in less than 15 minutes. Questions meant to be friendly had turned hostile. The conversation meant to celebrate a legendary career had instead become a masterclass in how not to treat your guests. But in those 15 minutes, something else had occurred. People at home had witnessed dignity in action. They had seen the importance of standing up for oneself. They had seen that kindness is not weakness, and that refusing to participate in cruelty does not mean surrendering. Sometimes walking away is a choice, a deliberate, courageous choice, not an escape from confrontation. Judi reached the car waiting outside and slid in, the city moving past in soft motion. As the car pulled away, she glanced back at the studio one last time, thinking of Lorraine, still inside, still attempting to finish the show. There was no anger left in her, only a quiet pity. Lorraine had been given a rare opportunity, the chance to sit with someone extraordinary, a woman of wisdom, experience, and decades of stories. She could have made the broadcast memorable for all the right reasons. Instead, she had chosen conflict over connection, ratings over respect. The result would be remembered, not as a triumph, but as a lesson. Driving through the streets of London, Judi closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, a calm settled over her. She had done the right thing. She knew it in her bones, and that knowledge was worth more than any interview, any publicity, or any fleeting moment of fame. At the end of the day, the measure of a person is whether they can look in the mirror and live with the choices they make. Judi could live with this choice. She could live with it well. and as the city passed silently outside her window, she felt a profound sense of peace. Standing up for oneself, insisting on respect, refusing to be complicit in cruelty, these were victories no ratings, no applause, and no television moment could ever take away. She had drawn her line, she had walked away, and she had done so with grace, with dignity, and with the unshakable knowledge that some principles are more important than any show.